Everyone, let's have more news about the Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. In a recent discussion on the Zach Lowe show, NBA insider Zach Lowe emphasized that the Miami Heat should prioritize acquiring younger talent over veteran players like DeMar DeRozan this offseason. Lowe specifically highlighted Jonathan Kuminga as a prime target, suggesting that the Heat should focus on players who can contribute long term rather than short term fixes. I think the Heat would be smart to prioritize like a Jonathan Kuminga, like a younger guy, ahead of a DeRozan, Lowe stated, indicating a strategic shift towards building a sustainable future. The Heat's recent playoff exit against the Cleveland Cavaliers underscored the need for a scoring wing, a role that DeRozan could fill. However, Lowe's advice points to a broader vision, where the Heat leverage their assets to secure promising young players like Kuminga, who could pair well with the team's core of Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro. This approach aligns with the Heat's history of developing talent and could help them avoid the pitfalls of short term gains. Lowe's comments come at a time when the Sacramento Kings are also in flux, with DeRozan potentially on the move. The Heat's interest in younger players like Kuminga could reshape their roster, focusing on future competitiveness rather than immediate impact. Kuminga, coming off a season in which he averaged 15.3 points per game across 47 contests, has shown he possesses the offensive versatility that the Heat are desperately in need of. As the offseason unfolds, Lowe's insights suggest a clear path for the Heat. Prioritize youth and potential over experience. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget.
And the biggest one, literally and figuratively, is Vlad Golden, the big man from Michigan. And I am very excited about this addition to the roster. And I do want to make the announcement this is a two-way contract. So this is someone Miami clearly prioritized grabbing in undrafted free agency. I had him as a draftable player. Not just draftable, I had him firmly as a second-round prospect. He was my 45th overall player on my big board, so I really like this value for the Heat. He has a lot of good things going for him, a lot of bad things, but I do really think this is someone who can make a difference for Miami. Ready for this, folks? He had a usage rate above 25% last year, a true shooting percentage above 65, an offensive rebound percentage above 10, and a block percentage above 5. The players over the last 15 years to have those numbers in a Power 5 conference, John Collins, Zach Edey, Zion Williamson, Kelly Olynyk, Daniel Gafford, Nick Ward, and Vlad Golden. So he is among some really solid NBA contributors with those advanced numbers. He started at Texas Tech for 1 year, then was on FAU, so was in Boca Raton for 3 years, helped them get to the Final Four, and then finished at Michigan. Excellent rebounder, as I mentioned. 10.9 offensive rebound percentage, 17.4 defensive rebound percentage. That would have been much higher if he didn't share the floor with Danny Wolf, who was picked in the first round, another 7-footer from Michigan. He finishes around the rim really well, 91st percentile at around the rim, 68%, 72% of his shots. He also is really good at grabbing rebounds and putting himself in the low post to generate the opponent having to foul him. He had a 59.8% free throw rate. He shot 73.1% at the line, so pretty good there. He's also extremely durable. Ready for this? Since his sophomore year, Golden played in all 144 possible games possible. Started all but one of them. This is a guy who's got massive size, is going to contribute to Miami. I truly do believe he will end up looking good in the Summer League squad, earning that two-way. I like what he can bring to the table. I had him graded out as a late second-round pick, 45th overall player. My player comp for him, y'all going to laugh at this, Dwayne Dedmon. Didn't know he was going to get taken by Miami. We all know how Dedmon was in a Heat uniform. But that's my player comp for Vlad Golden. I am excited that he is a part of this Heat roster. Now, who is your Heat favorite UDFA? We only showed the first. There was 4 more, and then we'll look at the Summer League invites as well. But let me know who it was. I don't think there's a better option but Vlad Golden. You can make an argument for this next player we'll talk about, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. The player I was just referring to was Steve Settle III, a wing from Temple. This is a very interesting player. This is also a player that rose up kind of boards from not even thought of to, all right, this guy could be an undrafted free agent. He's got excellent size. He worked out for Miami. The Heat did give him an Exhibit 10 contract, so this is not someone that's just getting a Summer League invite. This is someone they do want to have in their training camp as well when we get into September and October. excellent size, 6'10", good wingspan. He's a little light on that frame. He will need to add weight to it, but he's an absolute sniper. Not asked to do a lot offensively for Temple. He was more used off the ball on the offensive glass and spot up shooter, which he can do at an extremely high level. Shot 41.6% from beyond the arc for the Owls last season. Yet that will play. Okay rebounder as well. Averaged 6.2 boards a game last season. This is an interesting addition for the Miami Heat, though, because he's got great positional size. He's more of a 3 or 4 hybrid. He's almost like, I'm not saying this to be like a joke or anything, but like the way that you see like KD use his size to get shots up over smaller defenders on the perimeter, that is kind of what Steve Settle does. Do I think he's going to ever be Durant? No, that would be absolutely effing insane, but that's just the type of shot making he possesses at his size. Omar Balow is another big man that the Heat add to their little summer league group as an undrafted free agent. And Settle got an Exhibit 10. Golden got a two-way. There are 3 players we'll talk about here, all just got summer league invites. But Omar Balow is a very interesting guy, and you can tell that there was a theme with these undrafted free agents Miami picked up. It is size, size, size. Omar Balow is a massive 7-foot center who has a lot of weight to him. He's a big fella, 265 pounds. Played at Arizona before transferring to play for Mike Woodson in Indiana this past season. A little bit of a disappointing player, I'll be honest, at the collegiate level. A lot of people thought he was going to be like one of the more dominant centers in all of college basketball when he played at Arizona and then Indiana. He never was really able to do that. He's got a lot of offensive kind of deficiencies, if you will. Doesn't finish around the rim the best rate that you would expect him to, and his post footwork isn't the best either, but he's a big body who can crash the glass and will be an interesting kind of big man to work in rotation with Vlad Golden and Kel'el Ware. Yes, Kel'el Ware, we'll talk about this here in a second, in the Summer League squad. Marcus Williams will be added to the Summer League group as well as a Summer League invite for the San Francisco guard. And the first time Miami had a San Francisco guard. Shout out to Jamari Bouye from about 4 or 5 years ago. But this is a Summer League invite for Williams. Another player like Steve Settle that was reported the Heat had for a workout in their headquarters. He averaged 15 points a game last season for the Dons in the WCC. Also shot the ball pretty well. 48.3% from the field, 41% from beyond the arc. And talented offensive guard. Doesn't have a lot of size to him, though, 6'2". We'll see how he can perform, though. This is a very interesting Summer League squad. We'll show the full roster here in a second. But I could see Marcus Williams carving out a little role for himself as one of their lead scorers in the backcourt. The final UDFA that Miami added to the Summer League squad is a fascinating one. I feel like I've said that for all of them, but I really do mean it with this one. Dane Danja, the big man from Memphis. And just like Balow, this mother effer is absolutely massive. 6'9", 271. Round, mound, and rebound. Get out the way inside, folks. You saw Omar Balow beat 260 and change at 7 feet. Yeah, Danja's about 4 inches shorter, yet 10 pounds heavier. This guy's a meatball, folks, and he will carve out space on the interior. He absolutely hooped in the first round of the NCAA tournament when Memphis fell as the 5 seed to the 12th seeded Colorado State Rams. He was doing everything in his power to get a win for the Tigers and Penny Hardaway. PJ Haggerty sold his bag, though. Danja was unstoppable in that game. I don't know if he'll play more than a Vlad Golden or an Omar Balow on this Heat Summer League squad, but I'll tell you what, Heat fans should get to know the name because when he puts on a Heat uni and is bullying people on the interior with his size, people are going to really start to look at this guy in a different light. All right, those are the 5 UDFAs that Miami added to their kind of organization, whether it be Summer League or not. Hit that sub button because we're the #1 Heat YouTube channel there is. We put out daily content. We cover news, rumors, trade, UDFAs. We're 744 away from 24K. Appreciate the people who subscribe throughout the weekend during our draft coverage. We're going to continue to bring you top content here on YouTube. So let's go through the entire Heat Summer League roster at this point. There are some fascinating names we'll get to. Kasper Siakachonis obviously is going to be the headliner here. Marcus Williams, we already talked about. And then we have our guy, Kashad Johnson, making an appearance on the Summer League squad. I'm really excited for him. He has a guaranteed contract this year after Miami picked up his $2 million team option. Couple other names to keep an eye on. Bryson Warren played last year for Miami. Kiro Lewis Jr., we'll talk about him more in depth here in a second. Paul Larson's playing. Myron Gardner, a former G League guy. J.C. Butler was on the squad last year. And Javante Cook. And then the big men. We just basically talked about all of them. Steve Settle III, Dane Danja, Vlad Golden, Omar Balow, and yes, you do see Kel'el Ware there. He is listed on the Summer League roster. I anticipate this being very similar to the Jaime Jaquez Jr. situation from a year ago. If you remember, Jaime played the first 2 games of Heat Summer League, averaged 28 points and like 8 rebounds, absolutely dominated. It was clear that he just was bullying people out there and shouldn't be allowed to play. I expect Kel'el Ware to be kind of the same thing, to where he plays in the first 1 or 2 games maybe, absolutely balls out, and they're like, all right, we don't want you to get hurt. We've seen enough. Kel'el, you can go back to the big leagues in Miami. But 14 players already on the roster. Pretty interesting stuff there. We might go back-to-back, though. I'm not kidding. It will depend on how much Kel'el Ware plays in Summer League. I don't anticipate it being a lot. Obviously, the Heat won the Summer League last season in Las Vegas. But with Siakachonis, with Paul Larson probably playing the entire time, Kashad Johnson playing the entire time, Paul and Kashad got a lot of run in the G League and dominated. They got some run in the main league as well. So I expect Miami Summer League squad to be pretty good. You also got a big man inside to dominate like Vlad Golden. Hey, Summer League's going to be a lot of fun for Miami this year, just like it was extremely fun last season when they won the whole thing. So let me know, how excited are you for the Heat Summer League? Scale it 1 to 10 for me down in the comment section. I'm pretty fired up for it. If we can, we will go live on the channel for some Summer League games. I am taking a couple vacations to Virginia Beach and Boston in July before we get things started up in the fall with football and the NBA again. So maybe we'll do some watch parties, maybe not, but I am pretty fired up to watch some of these Heat Summer League games. Now, I did want to talk about this real quick. I do find it interesting. Now, the Summer League roster for Miami could change. But as of right now, you did not see Isaiah Stevens on there. You did not see Josh Christopher on there. Christopher has been in the Heat organization the past couple of years. With him not being currently on a 2-way deal or in the Summer League roster, which even if he was on a 2-way deal, you'd imagine him being on the Summer League roster, that could end his run. It could also end Isaiah Stevens' run, which would be a little bit disappointing as well, in my opinion. I really like Isaiah Stevens, but he's not on the Summer League roster, and he should be if the Heat plan on keeping him around for another year. So Isaiah Stevens and Josh Christopher could be it for their time in this Heat organization. But a player I did want to talk more in depth about is Kira Lewis Jr. I meant to put guard for the Heat, so hand up. That's on me there, folks. But this is a young player, 24 years of age, was a first-round pick in 2020. 13th overall by the Pelicans when he came out of Alabama, one of those first couple of guards to play for Nate Oates after he took that job leaving Buffalo. He's played for New Orleans, Toronto, and Utah. He was not in the NBA last season. He played for the Washington Wizards G League team. You see he's actually got a Wizards uniform on. That was his photo from the last year, but he never really played for them. He's appeared in 131 games in his NBA career, averaging just 5 points a game. He has been very, very bad in terms of being able to put the ball in the bucket, under 40% from the field, under 30% from 3. And that's the story with Kira Lewis. He's just been unable to put it together. His calling card when he was drafted, he was extremely fast. And he's still an unbelievably quick guard and great athlete. He just is not someone that can finish or hit a shot from the perimeter. But having him be the backup point guard to Siakachonis on the Heat Summer League team, I will be excited to see a little look on him. I'll be honest. This is going to be an interesting name I'm keeping my eye on. It's going to be fun to see how.
Hours since the Miami Heat officially drafted Kasper Siakachonis, and I've finally learned how to pronounce his name. So are you happy now, everybody watching this video? Because y'all got on me yesterday in the comments for my pronunciation, and rightfully so, because I definitely butchered it. Not as bad as I did last year, where after the Heat drafted Paul Larson, I kept calling him Kel'el Ware. But that's because I was mixing up like Kel'el Ware and Paul Larson, even though it's Khalil Ware and not Kel'el. anyways, that wasn't one of my finest moments. But it's been 17 hours since the Heat took Kasparas Siakachonis, and he is still on the roster. And I don't think that's going to change. Leading up to the draft, of course, there was a lot of talk about the Heat potentially moving the pick. I wouldn't have been against it. They need to gather as many assets as possible, and it's definitely likely that another team was highly interested in Kasparas. But that being said, the Heat clearly were as well. So they probably would have considered, or at least more strongly considered, moving the pick if Kasparas didn't fall to them. But of course, the Heat are still looking to make moves. The main guys we hear about is trading Andrew Wiggins, maybe dumping him to the Lakers for some assets. I kind of like that idea, and we'll get videos about that later this offseason, maybe tomorrow or the next day. Of course, the Jonathan Kuminga stuff is still out there too. But tonight, we still got the second round of the draft. And low-key, I would kind of like to see if the Heat could get involved. Of course, they don't have a pick as of right now, but maybe they could buy one. They could trade for one. I'm not exactly sure what the value is. It depends how early in the second round you want to get. Because, of course, right now, the guy that all Heat fans, including myself, would like to get in on is Rasheer Fleming, who was actually second on my probable big board, guys that will still be there around 20. And shockingly, he did not go in the first round. So I'd love to see if the Heat could get their hands on him. There's some other guys too, like Maxime Reynaud could be a good backup center. So I'll be watching the second round tonight. We'll see if the Heat can make a move there. But in today's video, I want to focus more on Kasparas. Yesterday was my...
What's going on, y'all? It's me, Ant, and I'm just here to remind y'all to subscribe because it helps me out a lot. Thank you.
But today, I want to discuss more of his background, as well as more on-court fit talk. And let's talk about the reaction from the fans and the media, and we'll hear from Kasparas himself. I did find it pretty interesting that Kasparas was born in Lithuania in 2006, which, Lord, that makes me feel old. The kid was born in 2006 and he's already 19 years old. Now, he just turned 19 in May, so a couple months ago, which is good. It means that he'll be 19 basically his entire rookie season. So very young and full of potential in terms of, a prospect. But the cool part is, and actually the very a part that makes me very optimistic, is he started playing basketball professionally a few years ago. He played for Barcelona back in 2022, which means that he was a pro at 16 or 17 years old, which means that he has a ton of experience, and that's always a very, very good thing. And keep in mind, he wasn't playing some low-level basketball. He was literally 16 or 17 years old playing for Barcelona in the EuroLeague, which is the second most competitive league in the entire world behind the NBA. Now, if you look at his stats here, obviously he didn't play too much, only played a handful of games in EuroLeague and Liga. But I want to point out how absolutely stacked his roster was. Look at some of the NBA talent on this roster that I recognized. You had guys like Alex Abrinas, Willie Hernan Gomez, Jabari Parker, of course, former second overall pick, Jan Vesely, Thomas Satoransky. And then the guy that really caught my eye was Ricky Rubio. Of course, everybody knows Ricky Rubio had quite a long NBA career, relatively successful one, albeit he was taken before Steph Curry, and the Timberwolves will regret that forever. But he was still a damn good NBA player. And you talk about true facilitators, that's what Ricky Rubio was. And always came across as just a super nice and humble guy too. So I think he's a fantastic mentor for Kasparas to have. I'm kind of making an assumption on how close those guys were, but they were on the same team, for a couple of seasons actually, through a couple of different leagues. So it is nice to know at the very least Kasparas saw Rubio train, he saw him play. And I'm sure that they spoke quite a bit, and he's just an excellent resource for him to have. Because, if Kasparas can turn into a better scoring Ricky Rubio, you're talking about a home run prospect. But, of course, after Kasparas played a couple of seasons with Barcelona, he decided that his next best step to continue his career would be to play college in the United States. We've seen that transition from several other prospects. Igor Demin is the one that you hear about a lot because obviously Igor, I think, ended up going 9. So coming over to the States, playing for BYU was the right decision for him. Some guys don't prefer that. Some guys prefer to stay overseas, like Hugo Gonzalez, I think was on Real Madrid. He didn't get as much exposure, as much playing time either because he was playing behind a stacked roster for Real Madrid. So a lot of times these overseas prospects, although they like it, playing in their country, well, playing at least in EuroLeague and in the same continent, I suppose. Well, Barcelona is in Spain, which is in Madrid, and Lithuania is also in Madrid. Yeah, same continent. That makes sense. But anyways, a lot of times they find it their best route to the NBA to come play in the United States. That's what Kasparas did. So it's very clear his goal has always been to be in the NBA, and I've heard him say as much. So he was recruited by Illinois, of course, had a great freshman year, and now he finds himself as a member of the Miami Heat, which is just a perfect fit. Now, it's very rare to see everyone, or almost everyone, agree on a draft pick, but that's been the case so far with Kasparas. Whether it was almost all of the comments on my last video, I asked you guys to grade the draft pick. Everybody said A, except for one person who gave it like a S+++, which is the highest grade I can imagine. But not only my comments, not only Heat fans, of course, all the major publications for the most part, whether it was NBC, CBS, Sports Illustrated, the list goes on and on. I checked a bunch yesterday. Everyone I checked, for the most part, had Miami Heat with an A grade. You can even see how thrilled the Heat front office was when they made this pick. There was a video going around on Twitter that the Heat put out, and then my guy on Twitter, Heat Forum, he actually pointed out that you can hear Adam Simon, their lead scout guy, you can hear him look over to Eric Spoelstra and say, now you got a real point guard, a real point guard. Listen closely. Let me know if you can make it out. So everyone agrees that Miami got a steal. That is except for one guy, Kevin O'Connor, who I know had a lot of Heat Nation mad yesterday on Twitter. Of course, he's on Yahoo Sports now, but he was formerly with The Ringer, who was started by that bum Bill Simmons. Y'all know I hate Slick Willie. A couple of Celtics fans, those two. They've hated the Heat for many, many years. Kevin O'Connor even used to write for something called Celtics Blog. You can't trust his opinion when it comes to the Miami Heat. He still wakes up in a cold sweat every night with nightmares of Caleb Martin. So don't listen to Kevin O'Connor. He gave the Heat a D+, but I'm not even going to waste my time reading his excerpt because he's just a hater, right? All you need to know is that he literally had Kasparas as a lottery pick in his most recent big board. So if the Celtics would have got him, he would have been thrilled because you just had him as a lottery pick, but now he's in the Miami Heat and you don't like him all of a sudden. Get the hell out of here, Kevin O'Connor. That guy's an idiot. So if you were reading that, just don't trust his opinion. He's not a legitimate source. Now, in general, draft grades really don't mean anything. Giannis at one point was graded a D, so they don't mean anything. You really never know. But for now, I do think Kasparas Siakachonis is a guy that Heat fans can be excited about, which is nice because there's not a lot to be excited about right now for Heat fans. The one thing that does worry me is the Heat actually didn't get a chance to work him out prior to the draft because, of course, they didn't expect him to fall. The two drafts that people are comparing this to from Miami was back in 2002. I was only 4 years old, so I don't have personal recollections of this. But in 2002, they took Caron Butler, ended up turning into a pretty decent NBA player, was like third in Rookie of the Year. So he was pretty good from the jump, and that worked out for Miami because they were able to end up flipping him just 2 years later for Shaq. So that did work out for the Miami Heat. But then, of course, in 2015, a draft that I do remember very well, that's when the Heat took Justice Winslow because he fell much later than expected. I remember Boston was offering like 4 first-round picks to trade up, either to 9 and take, trade with Charlotte to jump ahead of Miami. Charlotte ended up taking Frank Kaminsky, so they messed up pretty bad. I think Boston might have also offered the same package to the Heat, but of course the Heat declined. They ended up taking Justice Winslow, who I'm not going to talk trash about, right? He's not a bad player. We for the most part, Heat fans like Point Justice. I think we look back on him fondly, specifically Point Justice. Like I said, that's kind of when he was at his best for a couple of months there at least. But we can also acknowledge that maybe wasn't the best pick for the Heat, and they definitely should have taken that Celtics offer for the picks. So you always wonder why a guy falls in the draft. I know Kasparas, his production kind of tailed off the second half of his freshman season. He had a forearm injury too. We don't know the extent of that, but everything that I've heard is, as of now, he's 100%. He's good to go. I think a lot of other teams just had prospects that they were set on, and they might have reached a bit. Of course, that bum-ass Joe Cronin took Hansen Yang at number 16. I actually like Hansen Yang. There's nothing to do with Joe Cronin being an idiot. The only reason he's stupid is because Yang was projected to go like late first round, early second round. He could have traded back again and got Yang later. But obviously Yang was a bit of a reach. Walter Clayton Jr., who of course a lot of Heat fans wanted. I think we dodged a bullet by the Jazz trading up and getting him at number 18. And then the Nets actually took Nolan Traore, who was I think my favorite point guard in the Heat's range. They took him one pick before Miami. So hopefully that doesn't turn into a situation to haunt us. Well, I guess we never would have had a chance at Traore, unlike Maxey, who was taking one pick after us. But hopefully, the Heat got the right guy. It is curious why the Nets passed on Kasparas, because they literally took every other point guard. They drafted the Igor Demin at 9, then took Traore at 19, and then they took Ben Serif later on. Why they would draft so many point guards, I don't know. I guess they're just banking on one of them working out. But the playing time situation for the Nets is certainly going to be interesting there. But point is, a lot of other teams reached. That means that Kasparas was able to fall to Miami, which is just the perfect spot. Really seems like a Heat culture guy. I'm seeing all these highlights of him diving on the floor for loose balls. So far, he's said all the right things.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I think I can fit it pretty well. Just be able to play with Bam in the pick and rolls, try to share the ball, play make, and try to find open shooters like Tyler Hero. So I'm so happy to be there.
He immediately was discussing how he's a perfect fit because of his playmaking. There's another quote that I saw going around where he said, "The playmaking ability, it's what I do." So very clearly, he's an unselfish player. He comes across as humble. And of course, the Heat's biggest need last year was a playmaker to get everybody involved, but especially Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware out of that pick and roll. I remember last year, Bam was thrilled when they drafted Khalil Ware because I think Bam kind of acknowledges that he'd rather play the 4 in this league. So once they got another big man to play next to him, he was saying, finally I have a guy that could help me out in terms of size. And now I know he'll be thrilled to have a true facilitator. Of course, we remember how much Bam thrived when he played with Dwayne Wade and Goran Dragic. Those guys could throw those pinpoint lob passes, which would really help Bam get a bunch of easy buckets, especially for a guy who has some aggressiveness inconsistencies in terms of looking for his own shot. If he has another guy who could set him up, that's how you'll see him still get these, 20-plus point per game games consistently. Even the Miami Heat tweeted out a picture of that meme of Khalil Ware, like looking happy or surprised, and they captioned it, thinking about the pick and rolls with Kasparas and Khalil/Bam. So it's not a secret. Everybody knows what.
Forget to leave a like. ESPN's Brian Windhorst has sparked speculation about the Miami Heat's future moves, suggesting a strategic wait for a bigger prize than Kevin Durant. In a recent appearance on the Rich Eisen show, Windhorst noted that teams, including possibly the Heat, are holding back assets, hinting at a larger target. I'm reacting off teams' actions. When you see teams not go after KD to save their assets for something bigger, Windhorst said, leaving fans and analysts guessing. The implication: the Heat might be eyeing Giannis Antetokounmpo despite recent trade proposal setbacks due to limited assets. Windhorst's comments align with the Heat's history of bold moves, but also highlight the challenges posed by their current roster and draft capital constraints. Pat Riley's cautious approach, as Windhorst suggests, could be a calculated risk, banking on Antetokounmpo's potential willingness to leave the Milwaukee Bucks. This theory gains traction given the Heat's reputation as a desired destination for stars, as shown by LeBron James signing with them in the 2010 free agency. However, the feasibility of such a move remains uncertain, with the Heat's ability to outbid other contenders in question due to the assets they may view as untouched. After failing to put up a sufficient enough offer to land superstar forward Kevin Durant, Pat Riley and the Heat have lost a significant amount of momentum in the NBA offseason thus far. Windhorst's insight reignites hope among Heat fans, but also underscores the high stakes and unpredictable nature of NBA trades. As the offseason unfolds, all eyes will be on Miami's next big play. And you, fan, what do you think about Antetokounmpo's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.